The opinions expressed on this program are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the views of Comcast Sportsnet, its management, or the San Francisco Chronicle.
Tonight on Chronicle Live, presented by Farmers Insurance, has the time finally arrived for the Giants to push the panic button over Tim Lincecum's struggles?
This kid's special, and he'll I still have all the confidence in the world. He's gonna figure this out.
The Warriors welcome some of the top prospects in this year's draft to town. Team Teal's first move of the offseason includes bringing back a familiar face. Timothy Bradley's stunning upset over Manny Pacquiao sparks outrage in the boxing community. Plus, the Filipino Flash gets set for his biggest challenge to date. And full coverage from the majestic Olympic Club as U.S. Open Week finally arrives in San Francisco. It is Monday, June 11, 2012, and after years of planning, months of practice rounds, and weeks of talk, yeah, that's right, U.S. Open Week is finally here. Welcome in. Chronicle Live, presented by Farmers Insurance. I am Jim Kozimor, and as we get ready for what promises to be an explosive week at the Olympic Club, players are trickling in and getting their practice rounds in preparation for a chance to be named U.S. Open champion. Players are also getting that first look at the lake course, and they're sharing those very early first impressions.
It's a tough course. It's not a lot of margin for error. It's what you expect from a US Open course. It's going to challenge a lot of parts of your game. I think there's a lot of holes you have to kind of hold shots left to right into. Right now the greens are holding, but yesterday when I walked around they were pretty firm. So they obviously have full control with this weather of how they want to set the course up, and it's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a guy who can hit it in the fairway and really control the flight in his irons coming into these greens. It's in great condition. There's some really tough, thickish rough around the greens, which is not particularly deep, but it's tough and it really kind of grabs the club head, and you've got to work out a way to get the ball up and down around these greens, and typically you cannot miss the greens on the right-hand side as you be chipping downhill.
So who's going to join this list? The four previous U.S. Open champions when played at the Olympic Club. Fleck, Casper, both winning an 18-hole playoffs. Lee Janzen in '98, the last guy to do it at the Olympic Club that long ago. Number one in our Farmers Top 5, the U.S. Open is here. So let's go to the Olympic Club. Bring in Frank Nabilo from our sister network, Golf Channel. Frank, now that the players are getting a real look at the lake course, what are they saying about the way this venue's playing?
Well, I think very similar to what Graham McDowell and Luke Donald just said. It's difficult. These are always very awkward to figure out because you've got to sort of somehow sort on a strategy and try and use the same type of strategy probably for 63 of the 72 holes, and then maybe decide with 9 holes to go whether you actually have to change that. But this is more like a U.S. Open. No disrespect to Congressional last year, but this is more in the tough variety, which means the guys better be aware.
Day one of this thing, and I know it really begins on Thursday, but the coverage begins with Casey Martin. He makes it in a qualifying round. And what's the golf community's impression of Casey Martin playing with that cart again this time around?
Well, it's awkward, really, Jim, because the card is one issue. If we just look at Casey Martin as a player, I think it's a tremendous story. When I was still playing out here, that's when Casey came out, and I remember he played here in Olympic all the way back in 1998, actually finished in the top 25. That Casey Martin I really enjoyed. Sadly for him and his congenital disability, he really had no choice in his mind but go to the courts to try and ease the burden and use a cart. I think that's where public opinion started to sort of sway, maybe in his favor, but the sport itself and the players, particularly myself included, we sort of didn't really like that line of attack. We thought the game, it's been played for hundreds of years, and in an effort to try and preserve that, most of us ruled against Casey using a cart and went to the Supreme Court, and the rest is history. But I just saw Casey at about 30 minutes ago and said, congratulations, 14 years later to earn your way back from a golfing point of view, thumbs up.
Any way you slice it, he is a likable guy. And finally, when the U.S. Open is played at the Olympic Club, usually it's a dark horse that comes about. Give me a name or two that you think could jump out of the pack.
Well, we just did a show a little earlier, and the spoiler, to allude to the fact that back in 1955, Jack Flack bet Ben Hogan, then Casper took it away from Palmer. The latest, obviously, Lee Jansen took it away from Payne Stewart. So I'm looking at a spoiler, and the best spoiler on this type of golf course, I would think, is a player like Tim Clark, who won the Players' Championship a couple of years ago. Now, he's sort of not like a name that everybody's throwing out, but he's the sort of guy that can par a golf course to death, and that might be what it takes if you're going to steal it away from one of the name players. And the top 5 or 6 players in the world, they have a distinct advantage this year. But contrary to that, a guy like Tim Clark is the sort of the player that you really want to be looking at.
Frank, enjoy your week. Thanks for joining us with your insights here on Chronicle Live.
Cheers, guys.
All right, full-blown U.S. Open coverage will be throughout the NBC family of networks. Golf Channel begins today with live coverage from the Olympic Club, and you can see all 4 rounds live on NBC beginning Thursday at noon. Number 2 on our Farmers' Top 5. Somehow this isn't news any longer. Tim Lincecum starts, pitches, and loses. In fact, the Giants have lost the last 8 starts that Tim Lincecum has made, and how about through 13 starts this year? A mere 2-7 with a bloated ERA. And we continue the discussion here on Chronicle Live, presented by Farmers Insurance. To my right, Barry Tompkins, a frequent contributor, and he'll be in this chair later on this week. Scott Osler writes for the San Francisco Chronicle. Mark Purdy does the same for the San Jose Mercury News. And Mark, I'll start with you on Lincecum. There's no more asking a question of when he's going to get better. Now we have to ask what's wrong, because there's something that has to be big wrong with Tim Lincecum.
People may not understand me because I'm not talking with a British accent like all the golf people.
He's a Kiwi. He's a Kiwi.
Oh, British or Kiwi accent. But I think it's all up here. I mean, he keeps saying it's execution, it's execution. That means he thinks he's got what he needs. He's just not throwing the ball where he wants. I mean, it's something is amiss up in that guy's brain.
Go ahead, Scott.
What is that accent, by the way, that you're rocking?
That's a flat Midwestern accent, yes. Scott.
Yeah. I was out they got trouble. I was out of the game yesterday, and Lincecum, I swear, bounced. He must have bounced 25 pitches in the dirt, and Buster Posey was getting beat up because things are bouncing 10 feet in front of him. And so he's really struggling with command, and the ball's going all over the place. And it is mental. I don't remember the last time.
It is mental. A guy bounces a pitch that many times.
Sure.
Do you think it's mental? You don't think he's short on it?
No, I just thinking
They're saying that the miles per hour are down with this guy. He's not throwing as many sliders.
Miles per hour have been kind of gradually going down, but this has been a dramatic drop-off in the quality of his pitching beyond the miles per hour, which I've expressed concern about also. But I think it's more the mental thing, and he doesn't have it. I don't remember a pitcher who's been so lost all of a sudden like this.
All right, now, Barry, I'm going to turn it around on you. What do? Do you skip a start? Do you put him in the bullpen? Do you send him to Fresno and just say, don't worry about it, it doesn't mean anything, I'll just let you throw a confident inning somewhere?
You know, the scare card for me, Coz, is that I'm not sure this is fixable this year. I think it's fixable. Well, here I am trying to play baseball analyst. I played in middle school, as I recall.
Okay.
But you were good.
Only average.
Exactly.
And I like your accent.
Only average then. But I am concerned about the velocity of his fastball. And I think what's happening is people are just laying off his other pitches and are just sitting on a fastball. And I read a startling number just the other day going into yesterday's game where the numbers 4 and 5 hitters are hitting 404 against him. I mean, and that's serious stuff, you know. And I don't know can you correct velocity in the space of a season? I think he's too light. He's lost a lot of weight. You know, I think he needs to maybe get in the gym. Believe me, it's one man's opinion. I'd love to say I'm an expert, but I'm not.
No, that's the fun thing, is that about this one guy, you can go round and around with all the opinions. We're going to have more Giants discussion in just a moment. Time for us, though, to turn over the ice. Number 3 on our Farmers' Top 5. The San Jose Sharks have made the first of what many expect to be a number of off-season deals, and they welcome back one of their former own, Brad Stewart, a former first-round overall pick. In fact, number 3 overall in the draft he was taken. He's acquired from Detroit for Andrew Murray and a conditional draft pick. And so we go to our Sharks insider, Kevin Kurz. You can read him at csnbayarea.com. And Kevin, on July 1st, Stewart was supposed to be an unrestricted free agent. Why make the move now and acquire the guy at this juncture?
Well, now you have exclusive negotiating rights with the guy. Sure, you know he wanted to come back, but this gives you a little bit more peace of mind. And really, the Sharks didn't have to give anything up in order to get this window, in order to speak with him. Andrew Murray was a guy they brought in last summer. He only stuck around with the club about half the year before they sent him to the minors. he wasn't going to be here next year, and the other is a conditional 7th round pick. 7th round is the last round of the NHL draft. So the Sharks really didn't have to give anything up in order to get this window to negotiate with Stewart, but now they have a little peace of mind and they have some time to work it out.
All right, so what does Stewart bring? I know he played here before, but now he's a little long in the tooth. He's in his 30s. What does he bring to Team Teal?
Yeah, well, he's still 32, so he's got some good years left. He's good at both ends of the ice. But the one thing I've read over and over again about this guy is that he's good in the locker room, and Todd Bertuzzi called him, I think in one of the Detroit papers, one of the best teammates he's ever had. And Bertuzzi's obviously a guy that's been around for a long time. So he brings some veteran leadership. He's won a Stanley Cup. As I said before, he's still got some good years left. He's good on both ends of the ice. So really, it's a good addition for the Sharks, assuming they can get him locked up here.
So the Sharks are looking to make some moves and change some of the roster. Who does this move impact the most?
Well, to me, I've heard a lot of speculation that this means Dan Boyle could be on his way out. And to me, I don't think that's right. I think Boyle is still, even though he's going to be 36, he's still a guy that he led the team in ice time this year for the 4th straight year. That includes almost 4 minutes on power play time per game, and the Sharks have the second best power play in the NHL. So I think Boyle stays. I think he should stay. But at the same time, in order to get Stewart locked up, it'll probably cost you between $3 and $4 million a year, which means they might try to free up some salary. And I look at a guy like Douglas Murray. Murray clearly lost a step this year. I don't think he's a top 4 NHL defenseman anymore. So I think if the Sharks are going to look to shed some salary because of the Stewart deal, Douglas Murray might be the guy who ends up going somewhere else.
All right, Kevin, I love speculation, especially when it's backed up with conjecture. Thanks for joining us here on Chronicle Live with the insight into Team Teal and what they're doing. Let's move to number 4 on our Farmers' Top 5. The Golden State Warriors are getting active as they bring players in and take a look at them for their number 7 draft pick. Remember, the Warriors have 4 picks in the 2 rounds, and they had 3 guys in today, 2 named Jones, one Perry Jones, the other Terrence Jones, and we had a guy out there to find out what was going on with the Golden State Warriors, and that's our NBA insider, Matt Steinmetz. And Matt, let's start with the 2 Jones guys, Perry and Terrence. Are those guys that you would think about as number 7 overall picks in this coming draft?
No, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Those are 2 players who the Warriors could possibly be looking at. If they're there at 7, which I think they both very well could be, I think that's the decision that Bob Myers is going to have to make. Perry Jones, 6'11", not quite as bulky as Terrence Jones. Perry Jones I would say Perry Jones is more of a risky pick, but has a bigger upside. Questions are about his motor, though, and how hard he plays. Terrence Jones is probably more of a pro-ready prospect right now. The question is, how big is his upside? I think Terrence Jones could be a solid player. I don't think he's going to be a star. Perry Jones, they say, has that chance to be a star. So that's, I think, what the Warriors are looking at with the Jones boys.
They had some size in there as well with Tyler Zeller, the North Carolina kid. What about him? Is he 7-worthy?
I think that's a little too high for 7, even though I like Zeller. I think he's somebody who's going to play center in the NBA for 10, 12 years. He's got some very translatable skills. I mean, honestly, Jim, though, I just can't see David Stern coming up to the podium and saying that's who the Warriors are taking with the 7th pick. That would be pretty high for him. I think the Warriors probably brought Zeller in just in case they're thinking of moving back into maybe the 10, 12 to 14 range where he still might be. I don't think Zeller would be a terrible pick at number 7. But I think it would raise some eyebrows.
All right, Matt, thanks for the insights. We've got to move along, but stick around. We've got more NBA discussion coming later on here in Chronicle Live. And number 5 on the Farmers' Top 5, how about the sweet science? How about Timothy Bradley, friend of Chronicle Live? We had him on here last week, so it was a good luck charm. He goes out and beats Manny Pacquiao, and you can check it out at our website, csnbayarea.com. Our boxing insider is Ryan Macchiana. He took a look at all the different cards, I believe 51 different fight cards of guys scoring the fight and what came about with that. Ryan Macchiana joins us here on Chronicle Live. And Ryan, let's start with your card. Who did you see winning that fight? Was it Bradley or Pacquiao?
Well, I had Manny pitching a shutout for the first 9 rounds. He kind of took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit, kind of coasted and gave up the last 3. So I had him winning at 9-3 based on harder punches and cleaner shots. But, you know, I'm not the only one as far as who had it in front. according to my poll for CSNBarrier.com, 50 out of 53 of the journalists, Barry included, had it for Manny. And you look at the fighters, Andre Ward, who's a good friend of Tim Bradley's, he had it for Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather Sr., who just happens to be the father of Manny's most hated rival, he had it for Pacquiao. Juan Manuel Marquez, who feels like he's been robbed 3 times in decisions against Manny Pacquiao, he had it for Pacquiao by 5 points. So when you look at those results and you chalk it up, you got to classify it as a robbery.
So, Ryan, what comes next? Is there a rematch with these two? Does Pacquiao quit the game? Does Bob Arum try to trick this thing and make something big happen so he can make more money? What's the next step?
The next step is likely going to be a rematch on November 10. Everybody looks for that Floyd Mayweather super fight, but as you know, Floyd Mayweather's in jail. He's not going to be coming out until the fall, so I doubt he's going to come right out of that into the biggest fight of his career. So likely we'll see Floyd taking on somebody else in the fall and Pacquiao trying to redeem himself against Timothy Bradley in a rematch.
All right, you're our fight guy, so I'm going to turn this around and say, in a weird way, can this be good for boxing? Because the average sports fan is now talking about it. Even though it was the wrong decision according to almost everybody, at least everyone's got it on their tongue.
I guess if you look at it that way, as a curator of the sport, as someone who follows the sport, you never want to see anyone win or lose that way just because of the knee-jerk reactions that come from the fans, the media, the public. But I think it's great to see people get excited. I'd rather have that type of reaction, I guess, than an apathetic one.
All right, Ryan Macchignana, stick around. We got more boxing straight ahead, and a very furious Farmers Top 5 is now done. When we continue on Chronicle Live, presented by Farmers Insurance, Panda is back. And while things went well on Saturday, they took a turn for the worse on Sunday. We'll look at Pablo's up and down weekend. And we finally get to decide who is the best in the NBA. And I mean between LeBron and Kevin Durant. The NBA Finals start Tuesday, but we'll decide today which player has more pressure. But next, the Filipino Flash discusses his next big bout and his decision to work with Victor Conti. That is next on Chronicle Live.
Chronicle Live is presented by the San Francisco Chronicle. Follow your favorite teams and columnists every day in the sporting green.